Hi guys, JongLi here, and today I'm here with Scippy. We're going to be
What's
commentating
up, guys?
on the two games I played in the Summer Cup against Luke, and as with all tournaments, I don't know if this one's going to actually finish. Hopefully it will, but a lot of the time, a lot of players don't turn up or aren't able to play the games, so hopefully this one does a bit better than that. But so far I've played these two games against Luke, and yeah, I'm playing as Armenia here, and Luke is playing as the Romans. This tournament was a bit different from the regular ones, in that there was a banning phase at the start, so both players took turns choosing factions to ban until there were only 6 left, and then we used those 6 factions to play the 3 games in the series. So there are 17 factions in total, if you only count Rome as one faction, of course, and of course not including the rebels. So you'd end up banning 11 factions. The way I approached it was I started off banning factions that I thought Luke would really like to play, and factions that I didn't want to really play against. So one of the ones definitely that was on my ban list from the very start was Scythia. So I banned that one. I think like that was my first ban, or maybe my second ban, I think. I'm not too sure. But I banned Scythia very, very early on because I really don't like playing against Scythia. And I knew Luke was pretty good at Scythia. But I decided to keep factions like Macedon and Rome around because I actually like those factions. So I wanted to play them. Luke happened to be good at them as well. But yeah, those two I actually really liked. But Luke got first pick for the first game, so he picked Rome, and I chose Armenia.
All right, and look, how about Kim? Kim, how about explaining your army first?
Yep, sure. So my army's pretty standard. I've got 2 horse archers, gold attack, and 6 gold regular archers, and I've got 4 gold. I think gold. Some of them are like gold silver and stuff because they were kind of filling units at the end, towards the end. But 4 of these heavy spearmen and 6 cataphracts. And these 6 cataphracts are silver, I think. So they don't have the full gold upgrades, but they're still pretty tough nonetheless.
Alright, and let's take a look at Luke's army. He has 2 peasants. He has 6 archers gold. He has 2 auxiliary gold attack, 2 urbans. One is 2 upgrades, one is 3 upgrades. I believe they are silver and gold attack, knowing Luke's playstyle. And he has 6 Praetorian Cav. 5 of them are gold silver, 1 of them is silver I believe, or gold bronze, and he has 2 Roman Cav in loose formation here, and they are both gold silver. So comments about his army when you first started playing this
So
game.
when I first started out, I thought his army was pretty typical of Luke. He likes the peasants. I personally am not much of a fan of the peasants because I don't use them very well. They tend to just be kind of waste of money, but Luke can use them quite well, and peasants are pretty good against Armenia, I think, because you can use them to push away the horse archers, so they're very useful for that. Not so much screening against the regular archers because the heavy spearmen can kind of just run into the peasants and stop them getting too close. But against the horse archers, you can use them to push them away a bit. The peasants are very mobile and expendable, so that's one thing that's quite good. We also noticed that he's actually he's used the 2 last heavy cavalry slots to bring these Roman cav. I actually wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting maybe legionary cav, but I wasn't expecting Roman cav, maybe Equites, not Roman cav. This doesn't really change too much of my game plan, because it's pretty standard still. These 2 urbans though, I think was more of a concern for me, because it means that I can't really have free reign with my heavy spearmen. I can't just run them at Luke and hope I win, because these 2 urbans can really tear through my heavy spearmen if I'm not careful with them. So the 2 urbans are actually a bit of a concern for me at the start.
So what was your plan?
Yeah, so my plan was to play a pretty standard game with Armenia against Rome. You really just try to trade out the archers. So you kind of go 1 for 1 with these regular archers and the horse archers against the archer auxilia and the Roman archers. You try and trade 1-for-1, and then after you've basically used up most of your opponent's arrows and things like that, you go for a push with the infantry and cav, try and catch out maybe these urbans, get them for free. That is one of their drawbacks, is that they can be caught quite easily with cav. So maybe catch those urbans out, hopefully take a good cav fight and win with the cataphracts, because we do have the heavy cav advantage.
Yeah, and also, if I think what Luke wants to do is he has the skirmish advantage, and so he will want to use it. Hopefully, as you say, you want to push after some time with your cav, with your spears. Hopefully, catch some of these urbans for free. What Luke would be wanting to do is maybe hopefully try to preserve these urbans and try to get him to try to get you to come to him, because that's pretty typical of his play style. He likes to let his opponents come to, and he will just basically skirmish and find a good position to charge in.
Yep.
And shall we get this battle going?
Yep, let's keep going.
Yeah, so okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. So I guess the first thing you would do is to skirmish with your horse archers.
Yeah, so first thing I'm going to try and do is get my horse archers into a better position, because you don't really want to be shooting things from the front with these horse archers. You want to be making use of their mobility, really getting them around the backs or sides of your opponent, making them really worry about the damage that these horse archers could potentially inflict, and also making them unwilling to push up with their archers. And some players, especially maybe newer players, they really like to... Like, some of the newer players don't have very good micro, I should say. Sometimes they leave their archer lines open. Maybe they too heavily invest their cav onto one flank or the other. Obviously, it doesn't really happen this game because Luke's a very good player, but in kind of games with lower level players, you'll see them maybe push all their cav onto the left side or the right side. But if you have one horse archer unit just behind his lines, just sitting there, then he always has to be conscious of that archer unit potentially running into his archers and taking them out. So that's also something to consider when you have light cav. Really make use of that mobility and keep your opponent guessing. Keep him in the spots that he's not as comfortable in.
Yeah, but actually to counter horse archers is actually more straightforward, I guess, than what people think, especially if you have peasants. These peasants are actually very important units for Rome in this map, because they can really block off your horse archers, and they can be kind of annoying because you have no light cav to kill these peasants, and you can't really afford to bring your cataphracts around, because you'll just isolate your cataphracts away from your spears, and that's exactly what you don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I assume now you're going for I assume now you're trying to go for some rear shots on his cav, but Luke is just going to face his cav to your horse archers. And I guess right now the archer war is going on. And yeah, so right now, I mean, the archer war is going pretty stable at the moment. So would you like to comment on how you think the battle is going on?
Yeah, well, I'm actually losing the archer fight because he has the extra archer auxilia shooting at my regular archers on top of his regular archers. All I'm trying to do with my horse archers is shoot at maybe the backs of some of his archer auxilia or some of his cav. I'm not terribly great at using my horse archers, especially with these peasants running around and really annoying me, as you pointed out before. I've played against Luke before, I think exactly the same matchup, and he did exactly the same thing, and I haven't really thought of a way to get rid of the peasants. Like, they're always just kind of there, and I can't do anything about them. So both times I think I just tended to shoot his horses or shoot his archers if I could, but my horse archers don't end up doing too much, unfortunately. But yeah, that's fair play to Luke. You can see, like, he has these random units of cav just kind of facing my horse archers and not chasing them, but just looking at them, and they don't really care if they take shots to the face, right? Because they're Praetorians, they're pretty tanky. But he is keeping his light cav quite far away, actually. And that's because their armor's not as good. They're a bit more vulnerable to the rear shots from the horse archers. So I think that's why he's keeping them a bit further away and just letting his heavy cav screen off my HA.
Yeah, and I guess that is a fine example of how to deal with horse archers when you have this kind of army by Luke.
Yeah.
And okay, so right now Luke is gonna you are gonna push up.
Yep.
And yeah. So, and right now, what are you going for with this push?
Yep, I'm going for the urbans for the most part. Like, well, I'm spreading my cav out quite a bit because I'm quite confident that if I take a cav fight, I have like a decent chance. But if I probably fail to get the cav because he's going to run away, I can always go for the urban. So that was my kind of first thought. But pushing my cav out to both sides basically means that I could get this round on the urbans even if I don't get the cav fight. And yeah, hopefully me targeting these urbans draws his cav in. As you can see, like whenever Luke feels like his urbans are going to get threatened by the cataphracts, he's going to kind of turn all his cav around to look at where my cav is charging, because he knows that I'm after these two urbans here.
Yeah, and you get the two urbans, but Luke is gonna get the counter charge.
Yeah.
Will you pull out in time? We shall find out. Doesn't look like it, and Luke is coming in with some very nice charges from different angles, and
Yeah.
there goes our general, and
Yeah, that was a
it's pretty
bit.
much good.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
bit
It's pretty much
bit
good game at
unfortunate
this
for
point.
me, I'd say. I was actually pretty I was pretty happy with the way I played that actually, because I actually wanted to take a cav fight there. I was actually I didn't want to have it anywhere else. I think it was partly a bit unlucky because my general did get caught up in that, which is, you know, quite a big mistake. If you lose your general, then, you know, everything can kind of fall apart and the mass rout happens like that. But like I was fairly confident because I had the two heavy spearmen there and his two urbans did rout, so I did kind of get what I wanted in that sense. Like one of his urbans routed very, very quickly and the other one was very heavily depleted. So he had 2 units routing there, I had 2 heavy spearmen there, and I felt like the chances of me winning a fight there were actually like not bad. So I'm not too upset that, you know, that fight actually happened. The engage could probably have been better, and I probably should have pulled out. But yeah, it's not too terrible either way. I think that was okay.
Yeah, but I think let's take a look. Luke has. I just want to see how many archers Luke has left. 1, 2. Oh, he has so many archers left. So at
Yeah,
this point,
he's quite a bit.
I would say, yeah, I would say this battle is really in favor of Luke at this moment because he's setting off the last of your archers and
Yeah,
setting off your
it
horse
certainly
archer.
is. I mean, I wasn't expecting to win the archer fight either way, so not having any archers is not really surprising. Yeah, I managed to kill Luke's general here, which is a bit
You
of a
managed to
bit
kill his
lucky.
general.
Yeah, this was a mistake by him, I think, just not running away quite quickly enough. But you can see
Yeah.
like for both of us, like the general really did have a big impact. I mean, he kills my general and all my guys mass out, and I kill his general and, like, you know, 3 of his units run away. So yeah, the general
Although personally, I think the general death affects Armenia more than Rome.
maybe. I mean, the cataphract's morale is pretty decent anyway. I think it was pretty bad for both of us that happened. And Luke, unfortunately, none of his units regrouped because they're close to the red line. So that was quite unlucky for him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my cataphracts actually did come back, even though there aren't many of them because they weren't that close to the red line. Because I was the one who pushed up. But you're going to see, like, Luke here pretty much just checkmate and close it out. Not without too much difficulty, because he's got all these archers which can just shoot me. So I have to try and make a move, but I can't really catch any of his units. So yeah, I'm just going to be pretty much standing here and waiting for him to charge into something, finish things off.
Like, I think if you had more cav at this moment, you may still have had a chance to actually cav fight and then
Yeah,
go after the
that's
archers. But
possible.
the archers are probably what keeps Luke in the game. I mean, if he loses all his cav, and then even if he loses a cav fight and you still have your spears left, he can just shoot.
Yeah, but if he loses the cav fight, I still presumably have a few cataphracts left I can maybe chase some archers down with. Like, the chances look much better for me if all his Praetorians are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is true. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
so
true.
you know, I wasn't unhappy that I took a cav fight there. It was maybe just the micro during the engagement that could have been a bit better. Also, keep in mind that my cataphracts are silver, so they're not, they weren't gold catters. So that might have been a possible factor. I put quite a bit of money into my heavy spearmen, and 2 of them were, I think, gone from the main part of that cav battle. 2 of them were involved, but 2 of them were missing, so that could maybe be considered a bit questionable. Maybe next time. I was just thinking, because like quick thought. Yeah. My heavy spearmen, maybe next time I could upgrade them, maybe with just gold attack, or maybe silver attack or something, and put the rest into upgrades for my cataphracts, because, you know, the spearmen, they're not bad, but they're not necessarily, all 4 of them aren't necessarily going to be there, but the 6 cataphracts, you know, are definitely going to be in the main fight, so maybe putting a few more upgrades on the cataphracts might have helped, but in the end, I mean, pretty close game, I guess, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how I played that, even though I lost, so.
Yeah, but personally, I feel that heavy spearmen aren't really that worth it of an upgrade investment. I want to give all my cataphracts gold, or at least gold silver. Because silver is kind of risky. I would think it's like borderline okay, but it's like if you come up against 8 cavalry, 6 Victorian cav and 2 legionary, those cataphracts probably wouldn't stand a chance, and those heavy spearmen, yeah, they just won't stand up to anything.
Yeah, I was actually most scared of the 6 cataphract and 2 legionary cav build, just because that's the build I would have gone for, and that's like super good. But I actually brought those 4 heavy spearmen in anticipation, kind of, almost, of that 8 cav build, just because the heavy spearmen, like, Armenia doesn't have any heavy cav that can actually mash legionary cavalry. So, I mean, if you want to bring other cav that can fight, your only other bet is the Arab cav, which are pretty terrible. So I wanted heavy spearmen in the mix, just to like, just so I could like have a chance of sinking them into the main cav fight, and you know, winning it that way. But it's really difficult, as you know, because like infantry is just so slow compared to cav, and you can't really like, your opponent knows that you're going to try and take a fight next to your infantry, so they're going to avoid as many of those units as possible.
And heavy spearman is probably the worst spike unit.
Well, yeah, it's not the worst one, but it's the worst one probably that's used in competitive play. That's true.
No, like when it comes to pikes, even compared to spear warband, right? Which is pretty weak also.
Oh, I don't know.
Spear warband, because spear warband. Okay.
Not sure about that one. Not sure about that one.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Alright.